Happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody out there, and podcasting, YouTube, TV land, whatever. My name is Dylan Lang, and this is my brand new episode of Dylan Knows, episode 192. So this isn't some brand new, never before seen YouTube show, even though that might be interesting to try again this time because my lack of viewership, but that's okay. I don't do this because of the viewership, I do because I like to do it. But yeah, episode 192, and no, all of them are different. You don't need to have seen what happened episode 69 or 104 or 13 to understand what's going on in this episode. So go ahead and just start watching. Make it be your first one. I do have every episode I've done of Dylan Knows on my YouTube page. Go to YouTube, type in the search bar Dylan Lang. I should be one of the top ones to show up there. You click on that and go to my playlist, and you'll see my Dylan Knows playlist. It has some other stuff on there as well, including my appearances on Snark Alec Radio, which I wanted to bring up again also because Snark Alec Radio has been off the air now for a couple years, and occasionally they do the reunion show. Well, Tony, Mike, and Kelly have decided they want to do another reunion show this upcoming week. I believe it's June 1st they want to do it, and they've invited me to come on for the show. I have no idea what it's about or what we're going to do or talk about, but hey, why not? It's another way to get me out there. And then next weekend, 3rd and 4th, June 3rd and 4th, is Dylan Knows' new episode with MJ Khan. We're talking comic books. We should be talking a lot about Wonder Woman because the Wonder Woman movie comes out on Friday, and it's Wonder Woman Day on the 3rd of June, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in today's episode. Now, what is today's episode? Well, originally today's episode was supposed to be my top 10 list with Jerry Fletcher. Unfortunately, Jerry had a family emergency, and she could not do the show today. Thoughts and prayers to Jerry's family right now. Hopefully all things will work out. Jerry and I will be back with this top 10 list sometime in June. Again, haven't decided which weekend because June's filling up pretty quickly too. It might not be till the end of June again also, but we'll see. So I had originally was planning on doing 2 episodes of Dylan Knows this weekend, and it was going to be Jerry's, and the one I'm doing now, I was going to do like tomorrow, or maybe thinking about doing it on Friday. But then I was like, nah, maybe I would do it on Monday. But unfortunately, I'm doing it now. That's not really unfortunate, I guess. It's pretty interesting. I wanted to do a second episode because I like doing these solo ones where, sometimes when I do these solo ones during the week, sometimes we get some really, it's hard for me to pull out something we're going to discuss for the week, for the episode. And I'm not going to say, I'm not going to do this episode because there's nothing to talk about, because I like doing the show. So sometimes it's really hard to find stuff to talk about. And then sometimes, like this week, there is a ton of stuff that we can talk about. I got a whole notepad worth of stuff here we're going to try to hit. Here's my list for 1992's best of 1992 films. Can't see it. You'll have to wait till the end of June. Of course, if you have YouTube, you might be able to pause this and scan in and see what it says. Good luck reading my handwriting, though. Anyway, it is Memorial Day weekend. That means I have at least one more day off of work, which is good. The sad part is it is the last 3-day weekend that I will have off because of a holiday due to being a holiday, the last one until Labor Day, because 4th of July this year is like on a Tuesday. So we're more than likely, we're not going to close. We might. I mean, it's up to the bosses if they decide to give us Monday off, and then we have off Tuesday and then go back into work Wednesday. But July is one of our busiest times. I highly doubt that they're going to close our business on the 3rd, just so we could have a 4-day 4th of July weekend. It'd be nice, but I don't think it's going to happen. So that gets you thinking a little bit, because this is technically is considered the kickoff to summer, though meteorological summer actually does not start until Thursday, which is June 1st. June 1st is also the beginning of my birthday month. My birthday is June 20th. So presents and good wishes and viewers on top of everything would be very welcome over the next month or so. But we're not here to talk about that. It's Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day weekend is not only a 3-day weekend from work. It's not about barbecues. It's not about going down the beach and hanging out. It's not the kickoff to summer season. No, it's an actual holiday with meaning. And in this case, it's to remember all of the soldiers that we have lost in various skirmishes and wars, and even events, former soldiers who passed away due to other reasons. It's Memorial Days usually tend to be war related, but I brought that up because of the situation that happened in Oregon a couple days ago, where a racist guy with a knife was trying to threaten two Muslims on board a subway, and two Americans stood up to them and told them to shove it, and in return they got knives shoved in their throats and they both died. One of whom was a soldier who I think he might have been a veteran. He was no longer working in the armed forces, but that could still be considered as being a Memorial Day as a remembrance to him for standing up for decent human rights, protecting Americans from a terrorist act, which is what this was. And our lame duck, terrible presidency has not even acknowledged it. So F him, and I don't really want to talk about him because he's a fucking disaster. And there might be a few more mentions of him today because he just embarrassed the shit out of America this week. And you can call me a liberal, libetard, whatever, but let's face it, he fucking did. And excuse my language. Whenever I talk politics, I get really emotional about it. But we're not here to talk about that too much. Maybe down the line if I decide to. I'm going to try not to. I'm going to try to avoid it. But in the end, I got some really interesting things going on. What do we got here? We've got a case of karma. Some sad news, my review of Twin Peaks, my review of biographies I've been reading, my review of some new foods out there that I've discussed occasionally, some interesting little stories, some personal things as well, a story that makes me just want to bang my head because of the stupidity of people, a little bit of comic talk, even though we'll talk more about this next week, Universal Monsters talk, because something just came up about that, Wonder Woman Day. A number of people passed away over the last couple weeks, so maybe a little bit of sports thrown in there. Star Wars, holidays, and stuff like that. Guilty pleasures, stuff like that. So I got a lot of stuff to cover, and I should be able to fill my 2-hour window. So hang on to the ride and watch, even though nobody is. But hey, hopefully they'll watch it eventually. But let's continue. So a lot of people, and I've been seeing this on Facebook, a lot of people say, well, don't the armed forces have enough holidays now? Occasionally I might have had that view as well, but each one is different. Armed Forces Day, which was earlier this month, is to celebrate those who are inactive, not inactive, who are in active military, who are actually part of the armed forces at this moment, going overseas to fight in battles or staying here on the home front. My cousin Ben is in the armed forces. My cousin-in-law Matt is in the armed forces as well. I also know a number of people who are no longer in the armed forces but have retired after doing their duty. One of whom I work with at my job, and his wife is also a member of that as well. My brother-in-law's sister is active duty, even though she's a dentist. She's still active duty because she's taking care of the soldiers on the grounds, and she's fulfilling her job as a soldier. Because the armed forces, while it is mostly protecting our borders, we also have armed forces doctors who not only help people who have been injured and wounded in battle, like my cousin-in-law Matt, but they also work with veterans and other people as well. My cousin Matt's a doctor. My cousin Ben is a pilot. He is staying abroad here in America. He might be going out. I use the word abroad wrong, but he might be sent out whenever they need someone. But he pretty much sticks around America when he's not being deployed to a war zone. He does still work for the military and still doing his due diligence, because when you join one of the military groups, you have to work there for a specific amount of time, maybe 30 years or something, maybe less. I don't exactly know how it quite works, but you have a service you have to fulfill when you graduate from an armed forces academy. You have to fulfill it, and once you fulfill it, you can do whatever you want. You can re-up with the military if you want. You can retire and do something else, stuff like that. So That's what Armed Forces Day was. That was earlier this year. Memorial Day, obviously, is, as we talked about already, remembering those who gave their lives for our country against terrorism and acts of war from bad guys, stuff like that. And Veterans Day is a celebration of the veterans who fought in wars, who are still around. I guess you could also, celebrate veterans who passed away not via war, but old age or sickness or injury or whatever. They could still be considered to be celebrated under Veterans Day because they were veterans. And technically, my even though my cousin Ben still works in the military, he is a veteran. He fought in Desert Storm, and I think he was also involved in the last Iraq attack in 2004, and he might have been involved in Afghanistan. I'm not exactly sure. And my cousin-in-law Matt's the same way. So there's that. So Memorial Day is a day for remembrance. It's not just a day for day off work and barbecues and beaches and pools and movies and stuff like that. It's parades and going to gravestones and placing flags on them and saluting those who passed away. Tomorrow is the actual Memorial Day, Monday. If you're watching this on Monday, Memorial Day, or later in the week. Monday was Memorial Day, or is Memorial Day, depending upon who's watching it when. My son is in the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, actually, technically. He's still a Cub Scout. They have a 5K run that they sponsor that helps military individuals. My wife is going to run in that. And then there's a 1 mile color run, which for those who don't know what a color run is, it's a 1 mile race where along the roadway, people with powdered containers throw colored powder on you. And again, it's for charity that helps military veterans and soldiers' families and stuff like that. But it's a way to have fun, and they are willing to get covered in this powder. And then those who throw the powder, they get hit also, because the way ours worked, I did it last year. While you're waiting, you're going to start squirting at each other because you're bored. But then when the people start coming, you start squirting them with it. And then at the end, if you still have some, I think they give you a couple of them because you do use a lot of them. It is like one of those old power puff things, and it shoots out the colored stuff. We go to all gathered together around the runners, and we have a toast or celebration or whatever, a pledge. I think we say the Pledge of Allegiance or sing the national anthem or something like that. I forget. And then we just hit everybody with the powder. The runners get to throw powder on the people who threw powder on them. So it's a nice little get together, and it's messy, but it's also the type of stuff that doesn't stain. It'll come out like that. It might stick around for a couple days. You might find it in the cracks of your elbow or in your fingers or in your nails or in your hair or whatever. Or when you take a shower or bath, you might see a ring of color that's red or blue. Your water changes color, which is really funny. It's clear water, but then when you take your bath and you get out, it's like reds and blues in the water. Sometimes congealed make this ugly gray, which is really disgusting. But still, it's kind of fun though to see that. And then eventually it'll dissipate. You might have a little bit of a color ring around your bathtub for a little while, but that eventually dissipates the more you fill it up and clear it out. It'll clear out. So there's no lingering stains. I wore this shirt last year to the color run, and I'm looking at it now. I have no stains on it. Nothing stains. I've worn it a number of times since then. I wear it around 4th of July, stuff like that. So. So that's what that's about. So Memorial Day, Armed Forces Day, and Veterans Day are all different and are all needed for celebrations for those who protect us. There have been some bad stuff going on recently, which is nothing new with the way the world is going, particularly in our country and others as well. We've had a terrorist blast blew up an Ariana Grande concert, killing a number of young girls in England, Manchester, right? Manchester, that's where it was. Yeah, in Manchester. Our hearts go out to them. And then we had, as I said, the racist piece of shit that threatened two Muslims, American Muslims, on a subway in Oregon, who were stopped by two brave Americans who stood up for them and gave their life to protect them. So it's been a hard time, and it just seems like the hard times just keep coming with this particular administration and stuff that's going on. And I really don't want to keep talking about it, but it just seems like to me nothing is ever going to get done. There's plenty of proof of wrongdoing by this administration and members of it, and it just seems like no one is doing a damn thing about taking care of it and getting rid of it. We need to fix this. We need to fix it soon. We cannot keep doing this for 4 years and keep thinking everything's okay and keep treating it that it isn't a big deal, because it freaking is. And for those who don't know that, you are uneducated, stupid buffoons who think, you don't want your guy who you voted for to lose, despite the fact, that he is not working in your view. Because let's face it, the people who elected this asshole are poor, uneducated people who heard his "I'm going to do this for you guys and do this for this guy," and was able to talk his racism, because these people are genuinely racist as well. And we're going to put up a wall and kick out all the foreigners who are the cause of all your problems, and take care of all the Muslims who can't come and attack us, and so on and so forth like that. And they go absolutely apeshit for that. But then they don't realize that while that's happening, they're cutting their medical bills, cutting jobs from them, despite the fact that he said he's going to bring back jobs and he's not going to cut all this stuff. He's doing exactly what he said he wasn't going to do. And they are so stupid and uneducated. They, well, that's okay. He's still my president. And they don't want to feel like that they failed or they lost. So they're going to keep sticking up for the guy to the end. And that infuriates me to no end. And the fact that his approval rating is so low that most times the party, if you had a president had the approval rating this one does, you would start inching your way away from him. But the reason why is these assholes, Republicans who are in office, they have a specific agenda that they want to pass. And the only way they can do it is with that buffoon in the White House. So they're going to stick with it no matter how bad it gets until they get what they want. So that's why this country is in desperate need of change all over the place, education, understanding, and get back to what this country is founded on, which is the Constitution. So I don't want to get much more into that, but it was part of my list of what I want to talk about. So I'm done. I made my dug up that. Now, a piece of karma that I think is kind of funny. These assholes are claiming they want to open up, they want to sell off pieces of our national parks, which until then were untouchable. But now with this new administration, they're passing laws that are making this able to do, and also opening up, stuff where they can kill family of animals for sport from helicopters and hot air balloons and stuff like that. And despite the fact that they had rules before that says you can't, they've laxed those rules so people can go in and start killing and hunting things. Mainly due to the fact that the asshole sons are huge poachers anyway, who go in and shoot majestic big game over in Africa and take pictures of, I think, we're the greatest things in the world. We took down elephant or rhinoceros, which are protected species in Africa, but they don't give a fuck. And that pisses me off to no end, because our national parks are national parks. They're not yours. They're there to keep the land pristine and not have buildings and gas pipelines and oil pipelines go through them. And it's utter bullshit. And it pisses me off to no end. So when I read this story of karma, where a big game hunter was hunting an elephant and he got crushed to death by the elephant he killed, while it's sad that the person died, but he killed a defenseless elephant. And the ironic way that he died, it sort of, even though it's a horrible event that a human lost their life, it's still, he took a life of a majestic elephant, which is illegal. And the elephant's last gasp collapsed on top of this man and killed him. So while I don't condone I don't cheer the death of anybody, in the end, a guy like that who killed a defenseless animal, getting crushed by said animal that he killed, is ironic and appropriate. I am going to get into lighter stuff. Let me get all the depressing stuff out of the way first. Here's another kind of depressing story. On my other show, my Dylan Knows show with comics with MJ Khan, MJ and I, we tear apart Zack Snyder and his directing of the DC Universe movies, because they're terrible. Man of Steel is terrible. Batman vs Superman is terrible. Justice League is not looking that exciting to me, to be honest. So, we've given him a hard time about how bad he is. But when a news story came out earlier this week or last week, it could have been last week, I think, which brings a human edge to it. Sometimes you got to step back and say, okay, now we can differentiate between the fact that we can dislike a person's avoir of film, but to dislike the person himself is, not equally balanced. You shouldn't hate somebody because they made terrible movies. It's like Ubaldo Jimenez with the Orioles. He's a terrible pitcher for the Orioles, terrible in the rotation. He's cancer on the pitching staff. But Ubaldo is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Kind, loving, gentle to everybody, not just his teammates. And it's hard to hate a guy like that, but when your team blows a 6-run lead because of this pitcher, and you're a fanatic about it, it gets kind of hard to scream and yell about this guy, knowing full well he's a good guy, but you have to yell at him because he fucking sucks. And that's what Zack Snyder is. He really sucks when it comes to filmmaking, because he doesn't understand the characters that he's working with. Now, he did a good job with Watchmen because they were supposed to be that way. But with this, the characters he's done with Superman, Man of Steel, Superman vs. Batman, and Justice League, no, this is not what these characters are. The way he's used them, they are not the way they're supposed to be. So we've given a hard time about that. But you can't fault the guy when he has a situation where he kept it quiet for a while, but his daughter committed suicide while he was filming Justice League. And he hadn't told anybody because he was going to try to work through it. He wanted to keep up his deadline because, despite the fact he might not like what he's doing, it's still his job. He doesn't want to disappoint the people who bankrolled the job. And he thought he'd be able to work through the pain and anguish that he was feeling, because I could not even imagine if my daughter committed suicide, how much it would affect me. I don't want to imagine it because I don't want it to happen. I can imagine how he feels, because I can put myself in his spot. If my daughter did that, how I would react to it. And I don't think I would be able to handle it. And in the end, props to Zack Snyder, he discovered he couldn't handle it, which is fine. It doesn't show a sign of weakness. It shows a sign that you're a father who can understand why his beautiful daughter committed suicide and left the earth so young. And you start doubting yourself as a parent. You start thinking, did I miss something because I've been so busy doing this other stuff? And he said, I should have dropped out the minute this happened, but he tried to work through because he's a worker. He was there to help do a job. He was hired to do a job, paid a lot of money to do a job, and he wanted to make sure he didn't want to let his bosses down, despite the fact of what happened. But it just became too much for him, so he stepped down from finishing up directing Justice League. I think he was done filming it. It's just a matter of the editing, and if they do any reshoots. He's passing that off to Joss Whedon, who was the guy who directed the Avengers movies. And Joss Whedon is in the DC universe now because he's going to be doing a Batgirl movie. So Zach talked to him and said, I can't do it. I got to be with my family. And Joss like, I understand. And so Joss stepped in to take over the finishing touches of Justice League. So I feel bad for Zack Snyder and his family, because losing a child in that way has got to be devastating. Losing a child anyway has to be devastating, but in a way that maybe there was some way you could have helped them solve the problem so that it didn't happen. I understand. We'll talk a little bit about this more on Dylan Knows next week, and I'm going to get MJ's take on it, and just reiterate the stuff that you can not like someone's job, the way they do things, but don't be a dick if something bad happens to the family. So to you, Zach, prayers to you and your family. That tastes all right. So there's that. let's just do the shake my head news story. I have to do this. A woman, this story came out a couple days ago. A woman is suing Jelly Belly, which is a jelly bean making company, claiming she didn't know that jelly beans had sugar in them. Really? You honestly didn't know jelly beans had sugar in them? You thought it was just jelly? That's why they were called jelly beans? Well, guess what? Jelly has sugar in it also. Yes, you can do unsweetened jelly, but it does not taste anything like the sweetened jelly you get when you make your peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It goes up there with the fact that somebody sued McDonald's long ago for burning themselves when they spilled coffee on their lap because they didn't know the coffee was as hot as it was. It's so hard to see this stuff in the world and see the amount of uneducated idiots and buffoons who don't know jack or shit about anything. Or it boggles my mind, how can somebody be that dumb and not know that jelly beans have sugar in them? If you've never eaten them before and never heard of them before, okay, maybe I understand. Oh, jelly beans, I wonder what's with them. Pop them out. Oh my God, these taste great. I'm gonna eat a whole bunch of them. Oh, let's see what they're made out of. Sugar? What? I didn't know. Why? It tasted so sweet. Why is oh. This doesn't taste sweet. That would taste better. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So I just find that an interesting story that there are still people out there who are complete and utter morons, and I shouldn't be surprised because of how certain people got voted into our government, particularly the guy who body slammed a journalist the day before an election and still got elected. I have no words. At least it's only for 1 year, and hopefully, you know, the news was that the votes had already started coming in for this guy. So before this event happened, these people had already voted and didn't know. Would they have changed their vote? It's possible it would have changed their vote if they would have known that, but they didn't, so they stuck with their vote. And it's only for a year, and then next year is going to be an insane year for politics, and let's just hope that if this moron is still in power at the White House, some way we're going to be able to flip this thing and get it back on track. That's our hope. But of course, knowing the fact that he colluded with the Russians to fix the election, what's going to stop them from next year fixing all these elections to make sure that the Republicans keep in line and then can say, see, everyone likes what I'm doing, despite the fact that the approval rating is the lowest it's ever been for any president sitting currently. Oh well. I did mention Watchmen real quick. I figured I'll connect it with that. Zack Snyder did direct a very good version of Watchmen. I enjoyed that immensely. It's a film. It's a book that was really hard to film. But what drives me crazy is that the glamour prestige that comic book fans put on Watchmen, calling it one of the greatest stories of all time, comic book stories of all time. While yes, it's a really good story and it's very well written, I honestly wouldn't consider it one of the greatest comic book stories of all time. It's just the way I am. But everybody has this obsession with Watchmen, and none more so than what's going on in DC right now in the comics. Now, in the comics, this is obviously stuff I'll talk about next week also, but I want to bring it up because I need to fill time somehow. And it's something that just came up, so I just kind of want to talk about it now so I don't forget about it and get the word out there. DC's, for those who don't know, DC Comics is undergoing a rebirth. They've been a year into their rebirth, and it has turned me around because I was hating the New 52 for the longest time. So I was stopping. I wasn't buying That was one of the reasons why I took a 9-month hiatus from buying comics. I didn't buy any DC comics because there was nothing I really wanted to read. And then I bought some Marvel, but again, back 9 months ago, there wasn't really anything I wanted to. And then when Rebirth came around, I was going to try to get back on track with Marvel, but then they've gone and they've destroyed their whole brand, which we've talked about on our show, and I'm not going to talk about now. And DC's Rebirth is like, okay, it's a rebirth. It's sort of a light reboot. This is about the right time for me to get back in the comics. So I like the creative teams they were introducing, the events. I was like, okay, you know what? I was all in when New 52 happened, and I lost interest. Maybe the same thing's going to happen here. But then I was hearing stuff that I hated about New 52 was going to go the wayside, and they're going to bring back stuff that happened before the New 52 happened. So it's like, okay, that's even better. So I started collecting more of the comics from DC with their Rebirth, because yes, they started over number ones, and I've had my issues with them starting over number ones, but it was a good way for me to get back in to DC. And here I am a year in. My comics bills are so much because I buy basically every DC Rebirth book because I like all of them. Now I'm starting to trim the herd because I need to start saving money for some things, one of which I will continue to discuss on this show a little later. Which I'm writing down right now so I don't forget. And so I've been really impressed with the quality of the DC books. There are some that are crap, I admit that. But the thing that got me the most was a year ago when they introduced DC Rebirth number 1, 80-page giant written by Geoff Johns. He wanted to introduce a bunch of bam, boom, bam, climax, cliffhanger climax things to get you enticed to say, oh, what's going to happen? They're leading to something particular. And that's what Geoff Johns did with Rebirth. He's leading to a specific spot. And what's going to happen after that, who knows? But right now, he said he's got like a 2-year window. So we're starting to see the stuff happen now that's going to lead into the second year of Rebirth, which is going on now. And so at this time next year, we'll see where we are, because Geoff Johns said there will be a 2-year window with what his story that he set up in Rebirth a year ago is going to bring about. And we'll see how that's going to change the DC universe. And we'll see if, to me, it's good or if it's bad, because it's connected to the Watchmen. Now, as I said, everybody has this grand love of the Watchmen. I enjoyed it. It's a good story, yeah. And the movie was well done by Zack Snyder. I'll give him that. He took an unfilmable comic book and made it into a fairly good movie. But the fact that everybody is so obsessed with the Watchmen, again, it just makes me go up there with, why is everybody so obsessed with how great the Joker is? Yes, he's an interesting character, but you know what? I don't think he's like the greatest character, greatest villain of all time. I think that's everyone has a Joker story. Everybody wants to do a Joker story. He's overplayed, as is Watchmen. Because Watchmen originally was just, a alternate dimension, one-off story that DC just happened to be the ones that they were going to broadcast. Because originally what they were going to do is DC had bought the Charlton Heroes back in the 80s, right around after the Crisis. Charlton Heroes are Blue Beetle, The Question, I'm trying to think of who are some of the other, I can't think of any other ones. Those are the ones that come up top of my head. Nightshade, I think, is another one. Those are the ones that pop up on the top of my head. Major Victor, he was something else. Captain Atom, was that one also? Yeah, Captain Atom was too. Captain Atom was as well. And now Charlton was a comic company that did these superheroes. And originally what Alan Moore wanted to do is he wanted to, because nobody was really doing anything with those heroes. They were starting to go by the wayside, but they'd been around for a while. Peacemaker's another one. And so what he decided to do was he wanted to make a adult comic book story using the Charlton Heroes, and set it in an alternate universe where Richard Nixon didn't get kicked out of office, where he remained president, and changed the Constitution so that he could keep running and keep being president, and stuff like that. And it turned into it was an alternate reality, and I think that's the main reason why DC was interested in it, because they got the Charlton Heroes. I said, okay, that's a good idea. But then they were like, yeah, you know what, Alan, we kind of have our own plans. We want to introduce the Charlton Heroes to the DC Universe to bulk up our DC Universe characters a little bit more. And right around the time of the Crisis, they thought this would be the best time to do it because Crisis wiped out all these other alternate universes. And they figured that it would be a good time to bulk up the main DC Universe now. You had your Supermans and Batman, stuff like that, but you need more characters and you want to spread it out because it drew a lot of attention to DC again. So they wanted to get more books out there. So they got the Charlton Heroes, and they did a Blue Beetle comic, and they did a Question comic, which is awesome, by the way. They did a Captain Atom comic, which was awesome also. Blue Beetle was okay. They did a Peacemaker miniseries, which was okay. Again, Nightshade became a member of Suicide Squad, which was a good fit for her. And then there were some other characters I really honestly don't remember what they are. So Alan Moore said, fine, if you're going to be that way, I'm going to change up the characters then. So he changed them into his creations that he did, and he made his story. And that might be the only reason why I think that DC decided to jump on it, because they originally were going to use the Charlton Heroes, but then they decided last minute, no, we're going to do our own version of them. You have to do something else. So he did, and it became hugely popular. As I said, people are obsessed with Watchmen, and I was like, okay, I mean, that's great. No, I mean, it's a good story, but you know what? It's not one that I'm like, oh, God, I got to read. Same with Dark Knight Returns. Dark Knight Returns is okay, but again, I'm not like, oh, my God, this is the greatest story of all time. It was a good story, but I honestly, I don't know of any real stories that in the comic book world that leap out to me and say, oh, my God, this is a great story. I think Kraven's Last Hunt comes really close. And that might be a good topic for a future episode of Dylan Knows Comics. So I'm going to write that down real quick. What comic stories are the greatest? Yeah. So hopefully I'll look back and say, what the hell did you write there, Dylan? So now, to get back to my point, so now the Watchmen were popular, and, you know, they made the movie, and everybody loves the Watchmen, and they read the trade. Trade's one of the best-selling trades in the industry, I know, because I worked at Diamond Comics for 5 years, and I knew that every day someone always seemed to be ordering a Watchmen trade, and then when you were a new store, there was a deal that you were able to make as part of being a new store, that you would be able to get a bunch of these sample trade paperbacks to get into your store, so that, you know, you could introduce it to people who were coming to your store for the first time. It was a brand new store, and it was a way to get those free ones out there, so, you know, you would be able to have these trades to sell. And it was always like the popular Dark Knight Returns, Batman Year One, Watchmen, stuff like that. They said, here, you can have all these for free, but then after you sell out of those, you're gonna have to buy them normally, like we usually do through your channels. And because they would sell, they would do it, and it was like Diamond had no problem doing that, because they knew these trades were going to sell. They said, we'll give them to you for free. Hey, get you started on your feet here. Here's a whole box. It was like 100 of them. Here's a whole box of trades for you for free. There you go. Get the word out there, you know, and it works for Diamond, because then if they sell, I don't remember if it was 1 or 2 of each, or 5. I think it was like 5 of each. I think they had 5 of all these trades that they got for free. And once they sold, you know, what if on the first day you open your new comic book store, they come in and all 5 of your Watchmen are sold out? Oh shit, well, guess what, we got to order more. And then Diamond's like, well, you know what, they're going to cost you $10, $12, whatever. Okay, I'll buy 100 of them because they're popular. And Diamond's like, cool. So they make money, and then the store gets them, is like, oh great, let's put them out there. Boom. And then the next day, all of them go away again, you know, and it's a continuous cycle. So I always remember Watchmen always seemed to be one of the ones that everybody seemed to order. All my shops always seemed to order Watchmen all the time. Not necessarily every day, but it seemed like every week, at least 5 to 10 of my stores, I had about 100 stores that I dealt with, they would buy the Watchmen trade. And, you know, it's one of those popular stories. So Jeff Johns decided, he has a story in mind that he wants to do, which is going to sort of bring the Watchmen into the DC universe. So he added a little stinger at the end of Rebirth, where Batman discovers the comedian's button with the blood on it, which everyone knows is an iconic vision of what Watchmen is, and he doesn't know what it is. So that was the cliffhanger. But the readers are like, "Oh no, I know what that is. Oh shit!" And then Superman started, and some of the other, and then I think Detective did too, and a couple other series introduced someone called Mr. Z or Mr. O or something like that. which everybody believes is Ozymandias from the Watchmen universe. And he's someone who seems to be messing around with, he's been capturing certain characters from the DC universe and making them look like they're dead, but actually is holding them in a jail, undisclosed jail cell. Tim Drake Robin is one of those. Doomsday is one of those also. And Jay Garrick Flash from the JSA was one of those also. And then there was a couple other ones, and then one of them escaped, I think. And then Jay Garrick just escaped recently, and I'm getting to that in a second. So there was a little bit of stories here, there in Superman and in Batman Detective. So there's been this underlying mystery in there, and in the Titans especially. The Titans is the one is really digging into it because of Wally West's return. And Wally West, who hadn't been in the New 52 in the incarnation of Wally West, white, red hair, ginger, who was the Flash in the pre-52 before Barry Allen came back. He wasn't in the New 52. The new Wally West was a younger black kid who was still Iris's nephew, but it wasn't the Wally West that we knew and loved. So that Wally West came back in the end of Rebirth, and that sort of set this whole thing in motion. We learned also that someone had created New 52. Everyone thought that it was due to Flashpoint, when Flash went back and changed the past and then went back and changed it back to the way it was. A lot of people thought that was what caused, the things that were going on in New 52. But then we discover in this Rebirth that no, there was an outside force that did this, and with that connected with Mr. Z, I think it was, and also the comedian's button. Everyone started thinking, oh shit, it's Dr. Manhattan, because he's the only one who'd have the power to be able to do all that. So a lot of people are believing that Dr. Manhattan now is the one who created the New 52, erased DC heroes' memories, gave them false memories, and this Rebirth has been them trying to dig through the clouds. And we're starting to see breaks in the clouds here and there. The Titans has been really good at that. Superman's been really good at introducing that. Detective has introduced that a little bit, and I think Batman might have maybe a little bit as well. Well, yeah, because then they just did a 4-issue crossover between Batman and the Flash, which was called The Button, and it delved more into the situation with the Button, and they discovered a few more things about that. And then Superman went through it with Superman Reborn, where they combined the New 52 Superman with the pre-New 52 Superman into one being, and he became whole again, but that was all due to the machinations of Dr. O or whatever, Dr. Z or whatever, I forget what his name is. And then they teased that, and then Jeff Johns teased also they're going to be a Superman Watchmen series, Superman series. I don't remember what it's called, but it's going to be connected to the next introduction of the Watchmen series coming out this fall, which is going to set the balls in motion for the end of this 2-year plan that Jeff Johns talking about. He is writing it, and Gary Frank is drawing it, which is really because I like Gary Frank's artwork. So it's going to be Superman taking on Dr. Manhattan, and we're going to learn a little bit more about what's been going on behind the scenes with Rebirth, and we'll get a lot of stuff coming ahead. So there's going to be a lot of storylines probably this summer that are going to start leading to this point, and then we're going to have this storyline start. I think they said November, so we'll find out about that as well. So that's what's going on with that. And my belief in the matter is, as I mentioned before, I'm okay with Watchmen, but the fact that you're going to try to connect it to the DC universe at large is just sort of, why? Couldn't we just leave Watchmen as its own entity with its own stories and whatever, and not connect it to DC? But you know what? I'll give Jeff Johns the benefit of the doubt because he's a good writer. But Watchmen has never been one of those books for me that I think is one of the most spectacular, greatest books of all time, unlike a lot of people in the comic book industry. So hate me if you want. Hate me also about my reaction to Joker. I don't care. Continuing on the DC path, there's a little movie coming out on Friday called Wonder Woman, which is the first Wonder Woman movie ever. We had a TV show, which was great. Everybody loves TV show. Linda Carter, she's fantastic. She's spectacular. She's great. Joss Whedon tried to get a Wonder Woman movie off the ground a while back. Didn't work. But now we got one. Gal Gadot is reprising her role as Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot first appeared as Wonder Woman in Batman vs. Superman, and from what a lot of people said was the brightest spot of that crappy movie. When Gal Gadot was cast, I was like, okay, yeah, we'll see what happens. And then when I've been hearing the reviews of Superman versus Batman, she said she stole the film, and I saw a couple clips like, okay, she looks good. And then Patty Jenkins was hired as a director, and they made the Wonder Woman movie. And the first trailer had it set in World War I. I was like, oh, okay. And you had Chris Pine as Steve Trevor. I was like, oh, that's even better. And then you start watching this movie, it's like, damn, Gal Gadot, she looks like Wonder Woman. She looks like they got Wonder Woman right and look like they got a good storyline. And the fact that they're sort of making it like Captain America, the First Avenger, where they're putting her in the past, she's going to be referencing, from what I heard, she's going to be in the present referencing the story in the past. It's going to be a flashback, and she's going to see the storyline that's going to delve into Ares and the war, and going to introduce you to a bunch of characters and then lead you to the present day. So I'm actually very excited about this Wonder Woman movie. My wife is extraordinarily excited about, because it gives her a chance to show our daughter a superheroine movie where the lead of a superhero movie is a female. Unusual in the industry. We were hoping that Captain Marvel was going to be the first to do that, but that's got still a couple years to go. But at least we have Wonder Woman, and as I mentioned on my show with MJ Khan a bunch of times, this movie is going to destroy the box office next week. It is going to be a huge success, and I want it to be a huge success. It might be the only bright spot in this so far crappy DC Universe movies with Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Suicide Squad. This might be the only bright spot that they have, and if they can keep up with sequels that are just as good, then they've got themselves a winner. So, in honor to celebrate this event, and also the fact that comic book stores are evolving and are no longer a bastion for males' superiority and blah, 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 and just a bunch of geeky nerds who live in your parents' basement, which is one of the worst insults I've ever heard in my life. You know, it's now, comic book stores are now open, airy, have men and women who work there. And you know, you tend to also see a lot more women going to comic book stores by themselves, not with their boyfriends, you know, with girlfriends, by themselves. And the comic collecting female is slowly starting to overtake the comic collecting male, because let's face it, you know, the majority of the comic collecting males nowadays are people like me or MJ, guys who've been doing it since we were a kid. And we've kept doing it now that we have this disposable income we can use to buy stuff. And the comic stores are trying different ways to do it, and I'm trying to do it ways. I do a show called Comic Hall, where I show all the comics that I get, and I try to get people to go to your local comic book store and go out and buy comics, because in order for the comic books to continue to succeed, we need to have more readers. And the influx of female readers who are young girls, teenagers, early 20s, has been a huge boost and has helped keep comic books still around. If we wouldn't have had this boost, if we wouldn't have had this popular period of time now in film, where every film that makes $1 billion happens to be a superhero movie, and every superhero movie makes bank, even the crappy ones, yes, Suicide Squad and Superman vs. Batman and Man of Steel all made really good money, particularly Superman vs. Batman. They made a ton of money. And that's why I'm totally believing that Wonder Woman is going to destroy all those records, and may very well even surpass Guardians of the Galaxy 2's take, and even maybe Spider-Man's take later this summer. I think Wonder Woman is probably going to be the biggest movie of the summer, to be honest. That's just my opinion. Unless those crappy Transformers roll in there, which I really hope not, because Transformers sucks ass since Michael Bay got his teeth in it, but that's for a whole other discussion. So the reason why I do the Comic Call, which is a show I do Wednesday through Friday, sometimes Saturday, depending on when I have time. My newest episode I did last night, or 2 nights ago, rather, Friday night. So you should still be able, again, you should find it on my playlist. Go to YouTube, type in Dylan Lang, go to playlists. One of them will be Dylan Knows, one of them will be the Comic Call. Go to Comic Call, you'll see every episode I've done. I did it a couple years ago, stopped, and then I've done, just celebrated a year's worth of episodes of the Comic Call nonstop. So that's pretty good. Is to get people to go to comic book stores, and that's the way you build up the brand, is to get people to come to these comic book stores. And as I said, without this influx of female readers, would comic books still be as powerful as they are now? Would comic book movies still be as huge as they are now? I couldn't tell you. Maybe, but I'm telling you right now, younger males are more into video games and music than they are comic books. So, our job is to try to get them younger. We do all ages comics. We do free comic book day. We do Halloween Comic Fest. Conventions are all over the place now, so you can go in and get yourself into cosplaying and go and get stuff. So you do that, and you go get the comics. You get the young people involved in the comics, and you try to steer them away from their YouTube videos and video games and stuff like that, and let them sit down and focus on a comic, which is really hard now. Now, to be fair, comics have done really well. They've added a digital position where you can download comic books from a website and read them on your computer or your iPad or your phone or whatever you want to do. And they actually look pretty good. I personally, and my wife hates this that I do this, but I like the floppies, which, physical in-hand comics. I like to read them. I got boxes of them all over the house. I got boxes upstairs in my bedroom, and my wife is probably going to kill me if I don't do something about them soon. Whereas with the digital, you can put them all on your computer, and there will be no boxes of comics and stuff like that. You can go in there, you can flip it, and it has the exact same story, all the words on it, stuff like that. There's something about having a floppy in my hand, floppy comic book in my hand that I like. And, it's just the way I am. It's the way I was brought up. But that was one way to get this generation who were wired into the internet and phones and iPads, stuff like that, to get into comics, is you have to buy them off of Comixology. Now, they also do sales where you can get some for free also, which is a good thing to do because it'll get people to buy these, download these free comics, read them, and say, I'll read more about this character, and then buy the actual new issues that are coming out. It's again to the similar long lines of the comic book stores are doing sales every weekend. My comic book store, Cards, Comics, and Collectibles, up here in Reisterstown, Maryland, which everybody needs to come visit because it's fantastic. They do sales every weekend, and they're all pretty much the same. It's usually about half off of stuff. Sometimes they go a little bit further, depending. Their Easter 3-day weekend sale is pretty huge. What they're doing for Memorial Day, they usually only do Saturday and Sunday, but they're doing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for Memorial Day. They're doing 50% off everything. So you can get, well, except for new comics and new trades, but you can get old comics for 50% off. You can get back issues for 50% off. You can get toys for 50% off, get trades for 50% off. You can get baseball cards for 50% off, and get gaming stuff for 50% off. Glasses, T-shirts, posters, whatever. This place has everything, and you can get it all for 50% off. I bought some stuff for my daughter for her recital, which I'll talk about a little bit further down the road. I bought her a Katana Funko Pop because Katana's her favorite character, and I bought her a trade paperback written by a young girl about it's sort of autobiographical about how she was bullied when she was younger and how she overcame that and became new friends with someone new. And that sounds like that's a comic book. Yeah, that's the other thing about comic books also. Comic books are not just superheroes anymore. They are everything. They are, they're autobiographical stories. They are historical events. There are, licensed stories, Doctor Who and Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Archie and Riverdale and all that stuff, Charmed, even stuff that you haven't seen with Bionic Man, Wonder Woman 77. They have comics of Linda Carter, Wonder Woman out there, and Adam West Batman. There are comic books out there following that same sort of belief and not darkening and whatever, using it as if it's a new season of the TV show. They did that with Buffy and Angel, and they're still doing that with them. So comic book stores have a lot more than superheroes. That's why you need to go. And what better day to go on but on Memorial Day weekend? You've got nothing else to do. Why don't you go to a local store after you visit your graveyard and salute those soldiers we've lost in the war? Go to your local comic book store. Most of them are in strip malls or in malls where you have food. So if you want to go to lunch first and then do it, then do that. Or go to that and then do lunch, go to that. We got a Bill Bateman's in the same strip mall as the comic book store. So we go to Bill Bateman's to eat all the time. And we go to the comic book store. So it's great. So what is my point about all this? Again, for those who've never seen my show before, I do this a lot. It takes a long time to get around to the point, but I do always come back to it. Wonder Woman movie comes out on Friday, June 2nd. My wife wants to take my daughter to see it. I want to see it too because I want to discuss it with MJ Comics. I know MJ is going to see it, and I want to see it. And it's just a matter of grabbing my son and making sure he's going to come with us and come see it also. But Saturday the 3rd of June is going to be the official Wonder Woman Day at comic book stores, where they're going to give away 2 free comic books, both Wonder Woman related. One is a reprint of, I would say it was probably issue 1 of Wonder Woman. Issue 2 was earlier. Now, when Wonder Woman was done in Rebirth this season, or when they did the Wonder Woman Rebirth comic that Greg Rucka is writing, it was a bi-weekly comic, so they release 2 issues a month. And Greg Rucka decided he wanted to play with that a little bit. So what he was going to do is he was going to tell 1 week was going to be tales of present-day Wonder Woman, and the second week was going to be tales of a year 1 Wonder Woman. And eventually they were going to, they're gliding along like this, gliding along like this, gliding along, and then they will connect. And his final issue is 25, which is going to be sometime next month. So he's going to be done at the end of June. But so for Free Comic Book Day, that was earlier this month, they released a free Wonder Woman comic, which was the first part of the year 1 Wonder Woman story. The one that they're releasing on Saturday is going to be part 1 of the present day Wonder Woman storyline. So you're going to have that. And then the other big thing that's helped bring young females and females into comic books is Target started this as an exclusive, but it's now spread everywhere, is a DC Superhero Girls, which is, a series of, there were small cartoons, there's action figures, dolls, Lego sets, comic books, movies, featuring the female superheroes as they are in high school. And it's sort of a mix of Monster High and superheroes. So you get all different superheroes interacting, super female. And that's the thing. It's like an all-girl school almost, but Beast Boy's in there and Cyborg's shown up there, and there have been other males in there as well. But it's mostly focused on these girls, Superhero High, and all the people who goes to the high school are superheroes, but they focus on the female superheroes. So it's a way for young girls to have their own heroes, because comics have always been a male-dominated, event type of thing, where this gives them a chance to have their own stuff, their own figures, their own dolls, and their own Lego stuff. And it's been hugely successful. It's been so successful that they used to just do like 3-minute cartoons. They're going to do a widespread full half-hour cartoon. They've been doing movies, but now they're going to be doing a full cartoon, I think, later this year. And they've got comics. And they're going to also release, along with the first issue of the present-day Wonder Woman storyline, they're going to release a DC Superhero Girls Wonder Woman story as well. So I'm definitely going with my daughter because she wants to get that. And it's Wonder Woman. And we're going to go see Wonder Woman, and we're going to get her to see that women can be more than submissive to men, despite what our crappy government is trying to push on us right now. Women are much more powerful than you think. And that's why I'm also stating that I think we're going to see headlines next weekend where movie people who are just as ignorant as government people are going to be like, oh, wow, Wonder Woman made this much money? How is that possible? Because women go to movies also. Women have their own financial stuff as well. They make their own money. They don't have to depend on their husband anymore. They make their money. In fact, some make more. My wife makes more money than me. And you know what? I'm damn fine with that, because she's smarter than I am, and she's better than I am. I like my job enough. I just don't have her training. What she does is a lot harder, and she gets paid for it handsomely. Now, what pisses me off is the fact that she's the only one who works in her department, and no one seems to give a rat's ass about her or her department. So her company is treating her like shit. She's working 5 days a week, and then she goes in on weekends, and she works at night and stuff like that, because no one is helping her. That's what pisses me off. But she gets paid very well. I think she get paid more for all the shit she has to deal with. But she does it. And you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way, because I'm not going to be one to say, no, I'll handle this, babe. No. If it were up to me, I'd say, you can work all you want. I don't want to work. I want to stay at home and just goof off. Which is not necessarily true, but I wouldn't mind, being a stay-at-home dad, but I can't because my kids are school age, so there's no need to be a stay-at-home dad because they're in school all day. So it's going to be a good, empowering weekend, I think, and I'm going to be really excited. I'm going to read a Wonder Woman trade paperback this weekend. I'm going to try to go absolutely crazy with one. I'm going to even put Wonder Woman on my Twitter account, maybe even change my name to Wonder Woman. Why not? Because this is a first, and I really, really, really want the movie to send a message to Hollywood and to our freaking stupid-ass government that says, don't trifle with women. I want this movie to open as the biggest opening of all time. Is it going to happen? I don't think that's going to happen. But you know what? If we can get 150 million out of this opening weekend, that's a good start. It'd be more than what Guardians of the Galaxy 2 did, which everybody says they were anticipating. And it could be the biggest opening of the year. I wanted to beat that fucking Fate of the Furious shit. Because no one should. If anyone should beat them, it is one of the greatest female characters of all time in Wonder Woman. So Wonder Woman Day is June 3rd, Saturday. So much like I did with Free Comic Book Day, go to your local comic book store. Don't know where your local comic book store is? Go to your website. Go to your search engine. Type in Comic Shop Locator Service, or CSLS, and then it'll take you to a website. You pop in your zip code. Boom, it'll list every comic book store within about a 20-30 mile radius. I've said this before, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least about 6 that I know of within about a 20 to 30 mile radius. But they're all spread out enough that, a 20-30 mile radius, we're talking about around, not just, it's 20 miles this way, it's 20 miles this way, it's 20 miles this way, it's 20 miles this way. They're different towns or different cities. They're long distances from. There's no stores like here's a store here and there's a store here. No, there's one here in Hunt Valley, one out here in Reisterstown. There's one down here in Annapolis. There's one up here in Cockeysville. There's one over here in Parkville. There's one over here, like that. And libraries have even gotten into it as well. Libraries are another good spot if you want to get into comics as well. If you have a library card, go to your library. Go to your local library. The ones here in Baltimore County have this, at least. They have boxes of comics you can check out and read as long as you return them like a regular book. They also have kids' trade paperbacks for younger kids, and they've got grown-up or regular trade paperbacks for adults upstairs. Like at my library, it's 2 stories. The upstairs where all the grown-up books are. They have like their Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Watchmen, Batman Year One, that type. They have those trades up there, and then you go downstairs and you got your DC superhero girls and your Pokemon and so there's also even a section for manga, which is more of the teenage stuff because that's more of a teenage thing, and it's a reasonable progression to go from like DC superhero girls to teenage manga to superheroes. It's a logical progression when you follow that. So it's a great way to get young girls into comics is to go to the library or go to your local comic book store and just check some stuff out. Go see Wonder Woman on Friday, go to your local comic shop, or this weekend or that week or next weekend, or go to your local comic shop on Saturday, July 3rd, get some free Wonder Woman comics. And hey, I bet you they're going to have displays of other Wonder Woman stuff they have. I bet you if they were smart, they would put displays of other female empowered, strong characters in there. That's what I would do. I would do a whole display of Wonder Woman stuff, but then I'd have all these female Funko Pops set up and T-shirts and all kinds of stuff. DC Bombshells is a really good female-oriented DC comic about superheroes. But then you've also got stuff that Terry Moore does, Strangers in Paradise and Rachel Rising and Saucer Girl. Is that the new one? I don't remember the name of the new one, which is a shame because I'm loving it. I just can't remember the title of it right now. But he always writes strong female characters and does really good. Particularly Strangers in Paradise is one of my absolute favorite stories. I've talked about the BDSM series, Sunstone, which has 2 strong, powerful female leads. but it also just happens to be about BDSM. But it's not just about BDSM. It's about a relationship. It's a romantic comedy, which BDSM just happens to be a part of. And you do see some of it up there. Yes, there is some full frontal nudity of the women, and there is a lot of sex involved like that. But there's also, and it's for grown-ups only. It wouldn't be for children, but it'd be for grown-ups only. But at the same time, you also have a very heartfelt romantic storyline. Same with Strangers in Paradise. Strangers in Paradise, despite the fact that, what you might think about what you've heard about it, it started off as sort of like a goofy romantic comedy where a lesbian was in love with her straight best friend, and she was so ditzy she didn't know that her boyfriend was treating her roughly. But then it sort of skews into this whole other environment where the characters actually grow. And the ditz doesn't become so ditzy anymore. When she starts learning things, she starts seeing how her boyfriend has been treating her and how she doesn't need to have a man to get married. And she begins to you get to see her come out of her shell. Meanwhile, the tough, strong lesbian who's been in love with her is starting to get broken due to a lot of her past coming back to haunt her, and then it shifts gears into like a noir thriller where she used to work for a madam. She was a prostitute. She worked for a madam. She was a drug dealer. She, did gun. She did guns. So she was in like the mob type of thing. And we don't learn that until later on in the series. And it goes into this whole spiral, different spots. So Strange Paradise is one of the greatest character progressions you've ever seen. And then throw on top of that, Astro City, who I always talk about, is a great, if you want a really great story that is not destruction, but a breakdown of what the superhero genre is about, you go to Astro City. Astro City is about a city with all these, that's just filled with superheroes. And so it looks like your typical superhero thing, but then what they do is the storylines deal with how the superheroes around affect normal people. And then occasionally they also take a deep look at the superheroes and show them human sides. So you got all kinds of great stuff. You need to just go to your comic book store. So next Saturday, after you've seen Wonder Woman the movie, go to the local comic book store, grab 2 free comics of Wonder Woman. There are probably going to be some sales at these local comic book stores. Pick up some stuff, take a browse around, take a look, and see what you can find. And as I said, let's make this film be huge. Let's get females a chance to see that they have a strong role model they can focus on, so they can not ignore, but so they can fight back against the male hypocrisy that our stupid ass government is dealing with them right now. So I'm all for it. Taking a different stance on films and stuff like that. Marvel MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, is still going to be the best version of the cinematic universe, where a universe where multiple characters are introduced via other movies, and they lead to a point where they all join together in one big movie. And that's what the MCU was all about, and that's what made it so popular. Was when it started, the whole plan for phase 1 was to get to the Avengers. But in order to get to the Avengers, you need to introduce all the characters. So what they did was they made movies, separate movies of Iron Man, of Thor, of Captain America, and then introduced Black Widow and Hawkeye and the Hulk and other movies as well. And then these people had their own movies. You cast big-time stars, and they ran their own movies, and they made a lot of money. And then you say, you know what, let's put them all together into one movie. And that was the Avengers. That's why the Avengers at the time was the biggest opening weekend of all time, because you had all these characters from their own movies finally come together into one movie and work together as a team. And then you went to phase 2, where you introduced some more characters and built up to another ending. And now we're getting close to the end of phase 3, where they've been introducing more characters and are leading up to Avengers Infinity War, which comes out next year, which is going to be, again, like the Avengers was a big game changer in 2012. This is going to be a big game changer in 2018, because it's going to be every character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with the exception of maybe the TV ones. But, hopefully maybe that'll make an appearance somewhere, or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or maybe eventually they'll get to that. Fighting up against one bad guy, so you can have all these characters, tons of characters interacting. And that's what's cool about these cinematic shared universes. It was so successful, DC Comics side, they want to do their own version as well. So they start with Man of Steel, crap. Batman vs. Superman, crap, which introduced Wonder Woman. Suicide Squad, crap, which had Batman in it. And then Batman and Superman had the Superman from Man of Steel in it. And Batman and Superman had Wonder Woman in it, who's just getting her own movie too. So, and now they're going to do Justice League. They're doing similar to what Marvel's doing. But you're only introducing the big three. And, you know, Flash had like a second in, and so did Cyborg, and Aquaman had like a second in Batman vs. Superman. But that's it. Whereas the others in the Marvel universe, they had co-starring roles, or they star in their own movies. And then they're going to go to Justice League, and then they're going to do a Flash movie and a Cyborg movie and a Green Lantern movie and all that stuff. And that's the way you want to do it. That's fine, but you need to get good creative teams on it, and that's why you're failing. Is because your movies have been terrible, with the exception that I think Wonder Woman's going to save the day, and I think it's going to be fantastic. But after that, you know, I don't have a lot of faith. Justice League just looks like crap. The Flash, they cannot even get a director to stay on board, and I don't like their version of the Flash. They're making him more like Peter Parker than Barry Allen. Plus, they have a successful Flash TV show on the CW, which does it right. And then you have Aquaman, which is the only other one that might be intriguing to me, but I still do not like the fact that they turned Aquaman in the DC Cinematic Universe into Conan underwater. I'd rather have the blonde-haired, blue-eye Arthur Curry that I'm used to seeing. And you can make him as badass as you can, the guy who was in Conan and Game of Thrones, who is the guy who's Aquaman now. But that's the only other one that might be of interest of me, because he seems to be so passionate about his work that it might be okay. But other than that, it's not exciting for me. So because the shared universes have been so successful, everybody's trying to do one now. And the next one up to bat is going to be the Universal Monsters. Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Invisible Man, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Phantom of the Opera, Creature of the Blue Lagoon, Blue or Black, I don't remember. Now, they had a movie together in the Monster Squad, which is a great freaking movie. Fantastic, where they got the big four Universal Monsters teamed up against a group of kids, which is a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, go see Monster Squad, particularly around Halloween. It'd be fantastic. But anytime, really, it's a great film. And they were trying to do something similar a few years back when they released a new Dracula movie with, I think it was Luke Scott or Derek Luke or one of these Luke people. And it wasn't successful. The film was not successful. And they're like, oh, maybe we should look at a different way to start our cinematic universe. Flash forward to this year. If you want to jumpstart your shared universe, who do you go after? You go after one, maybe two big stars you can think of in your first film, now that Dracula failed. So now that brings us to The Mummy. They're doing a new version of The Mummy. I love the Brendan Fraser ones. I thought they were fantastic. But this is a new version of it, which is going to be now the true first movie of the Universal Monsters Cinematic Universe, because it stars Tom Cruise, who, despite the fact that he's much older now, is still a verifiable big-time Hollywood star. He can still carry movies, and he can still... He's one of the actors that I'm okay, despite his religious beliefs, I'm okay if, from an acting standpoint and raising money for your film production companies, of paying him $25 million a picture. I'm okay with that because he brings in people to watch those movies. The Mission Impossible movies were going downhill. 1 was okay, and 2 went down, and 3 was okay. But then they changed up a little bit in 4, 5, 6, and now they're doing a 7th one. You know, and the stars skyrocketing more, and that had to do a little bit with Tom Cruise. So you make him become either the Mummy or introduce him as a character who's going to be hunting the Mummy if you want to, whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to see the movie because it doesn't really appeal to me. Not because it has Tom Cruise in it, but it's just I like the Brendan Fraser movies, and this one doesn't really appeal to me that much. So then what do you do is like, well, Tom Cruise is good, but we want to kind of do this shared universe type of thing that they're doing in Marvel and DC. And in order to do that, we need to introduce actors who are going to play other roles who can carry their own movies. And we decide we want to do another movie that doesn't necessarily have Tom Cruise in it to bring, you know, into the Monster Cinematic Universe, which I think they're calling the Dark Universe. So in The Mummy, they introduce a doctor named Dr. Jekyll. Ooh, Dr. Jekyll is considered a universal monster. And he's being introduced in a Mummy movie with Tom Cruise. Eventually, he's probably going to experiment on himself and create Mr. Hyde. So you need to have a Jekyll and Hyde movie. So who are you going to get to star in a Jekyll and Hyde movie? You're going to put it to a nobody? No, you're not going to do that. Despite the fact that they might be the best choice, the best actor for the job. No, what they decided to do, they signed Russell Crowe. Now, Russell Crowe might not be as big of a star as he once was, but he's still a name. He's still a draw. And you know what, to be honest, I think he can probably pull it off. He can pull off the vicious, he's done it before in real life, the vicious, angry Mr. Hyde. Just got to give him a more, and he's done it before in A Beautiful Mind, I think. Give him the more soft-spoken Dr. Jekyll. And you get that as well. So you get him introduced in the Mummy, and then eventually down the line you say, let's do it. We can do a Jekyll and Hyde movie down the line. We can do that. Or we can introduce Mr. Hyde in another movie, and then down the line we can do that as well. So you got that movie coming out. So they decide, you know what, we want to start pushing this film to get people to go see it, to let them know this is the beginning of a new shared universe, dark universe, whatever. So they posted a picture introducing, this is your Universal Monsters Dark universe. And these are the actors we've hired to play roles in it. You got Johnny Depp, who will be playing the Invisible Man, an Invisible Man movie that's going to come out eventually down the line. Again, another big name. His name might be going down a little bit. I think the new Pirates only made $65 million, which isn't a lot considering what the other ones has made before. But it won this week's box office, and he's had a lot of personal issues over the last year, so his stock is going down a little bit. But the fact is, he's still a name, and he still might be a draw. He's still a pretty good actor. He's lost his way a little bit. Maybe he can get it back together. The Invisible Man's always been an interesting movie, character. I'm going to talk about a version of the Invisible Man in my top 10 list with Gigi down the line in June sometime, so that's just a little teaser about that. Javier Bardem, who is going to be, who is working with Johnny Depp right now in the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie, has been cast as Frankenstein's monster. Not as Dr. Frankenstein, but as Frankenstein's monster. That should be interesting because he's another really good actor, but it's an odd choice, but it's Javier Bardem, and he's still a name. He's the type, you just need to get somebody, you just need to probably get another famous name to be Dr. Frankenstein. And what they're going to be doing with that is, well, you know what? We got to do Bride of Frankenstein. So they're going to do a Bride of Frankenstein movie, which is actually, they say, is going to be before The Invisible Man with Johnny Depp. And they still haven't cast the Bride of Frankenstein yet. The only female that was in this picture with them is the female mummy who's in the Mummy movie. So we don't know who's going to be Bride of Frankenstein. So what we're thinking is, we know who Frankenstein's monster is going to be, and they might be doing a little bit of a reversal here. They might introduce Frankenstein's monster in this movie, but what they might end up doing is they might not have found their Dr. Frankenstein yet. So they want to do a search for casting, see what actor would be good as a Dr. Frankenstein, who could be a name and a draw, and then an actress who can be a Bride of Frankenstein. So it says Bride of Frankenstein. They say Bride of Frankenstein's monster. It says Bride of Frankenstein. And that's the thing you always have to remember. Frankenstein's the name of the doctor, not the monster. It's Frankenstein's monster. So Bride of Frankenstein, to me, leads me to believe that Dr. Frankenstein is going to be a lonely guy, or his wife is going to die or whatever, and he's going to try to bring her back to life and creates the Bride of Frankenstein, who is not going to go well. And then maybe she's going to disappear or whatever. And then he's going to say, well, I did it once. I'm going to try something else. And he's going to create Frankenstein's monster, and that's where Javier Bardem comes in. So I'm thinking either the Bride of Frankenstein movie is going to be a setup for the Frankenstein Monsters movie, which could happen down the line. But you need to get two big characters. Could you get Jennifer Lawrence to be Bride of Frankenstein? Now, that would really draw people. Is that feasible? I don't know if she'd do it. She's already done enough genre stuff. I don't know if she wants to do that. I think she wants to focus more on her serious acting. But you want to look into that type of thing. You want to look for an actress who, her name alone, can draw people in there. And then you got to find a Dr. Frankenstein who, again, can draw people in. Unless you want to do a Javier Bardem as Dr. Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, which you can do, I suppose. And that way you can introduce Javier Bardem early, or you have him come up at the end of the Bride of Frankenstein. I don't know. I'm not in charge of that. That's up for them. But they say that's the next one that's going to come out after The Mummy, which is odd since, you figured The Invisible Man would come up with Johnny Depp already cast. But I guess they figured, maybe we should let it his past years worth of issues subside a little bit, and then we'll bring him back to the forefront. Anything's possible. So we'll see. Does that interest me? Yeah, I have no desire to see the Mummy movie. I don't know. The Invisible Man has always been a very fascinating character to me, and that might be interesting to look at. And I know you're also going to do a Creature of the Black Lagoon. You got to do Phantom of the Opera. So you still got a bunch of other characters you can play. And you got to do a Wolfman. Who's going to be Wolfman? We've got plenty of Wolfmans. Deadpool should be Ryan Reynolds should be Wolfman. That'd be interesting, but no, it wouldn't work though. It wouldn't work. That's just me though. Well, I'm pleased right through this stuff. I'm gonna talk about a lot of different things. I might have enough stuff to cover two things. Well, speaking of Tom Cruise, let's just bring this up real quick. This is a quick thing. There have been rumors for years now. And it looks like now it appears that the rumors are finally going to come true with all these revivals and stuff like that have been happening in movies and television and stuff like that. Top Gun 2 looks like it's a go with Tom Cruise. So my thoughts on that, I'm not a big fan of Top Gun. I've never really been a big fan of Top Gun. It's an okay movie, but it's not like one of my all-time favorites. And then, of course, Val Kilmer, who hasn't done any acting in years, is like, I'll do it. I can reprise my role. He loves his role. He loves the character of Iceman. I can do it again. Yeah, call me. Need me. You need me to come be in that. So we'll see. But Top Gun 2 is starting to get murmured. So is Spaceballs 2, which put me over the moon. They need to call it The Search for More Money, even though it's been 30 plus years since the last one came out. But the fact with the new arrival of all the Star Wars stuff and the anthology stories and stuff like that, it would be good to see Spaceballs again. Particularly Mel Brooks, he's screaming towards 100. Actually, he's in his 90s, and he still looks pretty good. You know, he still looks like he can handle some stuff. Get him to direct it before he gets to be incapable of doing it. Sort of similar to like a Clint Eastwood, where Clint Eastwood is in his 90s and he's still directing movies as well. So I like to see that. So Top Gun 2, Space, not so much, but it's being teased about there. Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money, yes, please. Let's get that out of here. Real quick, I could probably spend a whole show about this, but I couldn't let this week pass without a passing discussion of Star Wars. I might down the line do a Star Wars show because even though May 25th, 1977, which was a few days ago, is the technical 40th anniversary of the release of Star Wars, because it came out May 25th, 1977, and May 25th, 2017 is the official 40th anniversary. It's the whole year they're going to celebrate Star Wars. I mean, the new Star Wars movie is coming out at the end of the month and December. The Last Jedi, the new books coming out all the time, new comic books coming out all the time, new figures, new stuff like that. So Star Wars is still going to be talked about through the summer and in the fall. So maybe I will do just a straight up Star Wars 40th anniversary show. So I might not, since I'm starting to run out of time. Maybe I'll create my own show for that. Create own show. But as I couldn't pass without passing. I was 4 years old. I don't think I saw it when it originally came out. I might have, but I don't remember it. What I do remember is two little memories I have of Star Wars. I remember back in the old days. Yeah, I know I'm old. 1973, I was born. I'm going to be 44 years old on June 20th. So I've been around for a while. I'm 4 years older than Star Wars. So I'm older than Star Wars. So 40 years ago, as I said, I was 4 years old. I don't remember if I saw the movie in the movie theater. It's very possible I could have, but I didn't. Or I might have, but I could have, or I might not have. I don't know. But what I do remember is that in the old days, there used to not be multiple cinemas like there were here. I think in my area there were 3, 5 if you count the 2 out and further out in the county. But right around where I lived, there was only 3 theaters. One was the Senator, which had 1 screen. One was right down the street from my house at the York Road Plaza, which had 2 screens. And then there was one up in Towson that had 2 screens. Then there was one out in York Ridge, which was a little bit ways down the road in Timonium, which had 4 screens. And then there's Timonium, had 3 screens. And that was it. There wasn't any of these 8, 12, 24 screen multiplexes. There weren't multiple screenings of the film because you had all these theaters. And you might have been able to work it out a little bit, but there were other movies that had come out. So Star Wars might have only been available in maybe 1, maybe 2 of the 5 in the area. And then the other movies were in there too. So you would only be able to go to those theaters to see Star Wars. Nowadays, every theater would have Star Wars because you have multiple screens and they have multiple, I think when Guardians came out, I think they had 3 screens of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 that I could see. I mean, there was the IMAX, the high def IMAX, or an IMAX, the 3D, and the regular version. Now, those are the 3, but they could have added like 2 theaters for the 3D and like 2 theaters for the regular. So you had about 7 possible theaters of 24 that would have been showing Star Wars, or in this case, we're showing Guardians of the Galaxy. So you could have had that happen. So if one of the screens was sold out, you just go, I'll just go to the one that starts in half an hour, and you go, yeah, it's 3D, I'll pay a little extra, but I want to go see it. So nowadays it's a different story. But now, in the old days, this is also before cable. Well, cable sort of came in the early 80s, but still wasn't a big deal. DVDs, videos, stuff like that. You couldn't just say, you know what, I miss Star Wars. I'll wait till it comes out on DVD. I'll grab it, I'll put it in, I'll watch it at home. You couldn't do that. You had to go to the theater and see it if you wanted to see it. If you were unable to see it, what were you going to do? Wait for it to be on television 3 years down the line where it would be cut to pieces. Because they, as I said, they didn't have video. They didn't have DVD. Cable was still in its infancy, so you didn't really have it that much. So what the theaters did in order to make more money, knowing full well you didn't have these video and DVD stuff like that, they would bring it out again like a year later or 2 years. They bring it out every year. So it came out in 77, but they might re-bring it out in the theaters in 78. They might re-bring it out in 79, or they might wait till 1979 to bring it out because the sequel was coming out in 1980. But they would re-release it a couple years after the original release of it. And I kind of remember seeing it at the Senator Theater, and I remember a poster of a sand person or like a standee or something like that was in the corner of the movie theater, or was on one of the outside poster things. I just remember that. So I remember seeing it there. So I did see Star Wars in the movie theater, but I couldn't say it was 1977. It might have been 1977, and I have that memory from when I was 4 years old, but I'm thinking it was probably one of these re-releases in 78 or 79 where I was 5 or 6 years old. I remember it more often. Did I see Empire Strikes Back in the movie theater? I did. And then I think they re-released it again just before Return of the Jedi, because I remember they did a trailer for Return of the Jedi after a screening of Empire, and you couldn't have done that in 1980. So they would have had to re-release it in like 82. And then I remember seeing it again in the movie theater, and then they showed a trailer for this is what's coming up in Return of the Jedi. So, but I'm pretty sure I saw it in the movie theater in 1980, because by then I would have been 7 years old. And I would have been a big fan of it anyway, because I played with the figures. I bought the figures. I bought the cards and did also. So I was a huge fan of Star Wars by that time. And then I know I saw Return of the Jedi in the movie theater in 83. And then I also know in 97, when they re-released it for its 20th anniversary with the new footage, I stood in line and got tickets to see that and went opening day. And they released Star Wars in like January, Empire in like February, Return of the Jedi in like March. So I went to all 3 of those screenings down the Senator of the new versions of it. And then 1999, I remember staying in line and ordering tickets to The Phantom Menace. And actually the line was and it was at the Senator, because the Senator's the place to go. It would go from the Senator's box office down the road, up through the neighborhood, and snaked around. I was like way in the way to the back. It took me all day to get my tickets. I got there like, I don't know, at like say 11 a.m. and I didn't leave till like 6 p.m. and I stayed in line the whole day to get tickets to 1999 Star Wars Phantom Menace. And it was like the old days where the line was just outrageously through the roof. So I got tickets to opening day. I got tickets to the next day for my mom and stepdad. And then after that, the disappointment of the film 3 years later, Attack of the Clones, I saw that when I worked at the radio station. I made a connection with my friend Kevin Perkins, who worked for people who did preview screenings of the movie. He had passes to like a 6 o'clock showing of Attack of the Clones the day before it came out. So not midnight, it was like 6 o'clock. So I went to see that at White Marsh. And again, it was okay. And then I remember seeing Revenge of the Sith with my wife's family because they were all in town for a wedding of their friend Sonny. And we had already done the rehearsal dinner, so we were going to go that night to see Revenge of the Sith at the Senator. So we were all in and saw that. So I remember that's how those worked. And then The Force Awakens, by then I had kids, and they wanted to go see it, but we didn't see it opening week. We didn't see it till like New Year's Day, I think is when we saw. So we saw it a few weeks after it came out. And we haven't seen Rogue One yet. I have the DVD now, and then we'll probably see The Last Jedi around the same time, around Christmas break, New Year's break again. So I'm probably not going to see it opening day. So that's my thing about Star Wars. I might do a Star Wars show later on and get some people on there like that. I might not be able to do a lot of this stuff. I don't really want to talk about this because it really doesn't interest me. So you're cut. You don't really need to know about this, so we'll cut that too. That's personal. I'll probably cut this also. Boom, boom, and I'll cut this also. Boom, boom, because we're getting closer. Here's a fun story. Neil Gaiman has gotten a rebirth of sorts as well. Well, not a rebirth. He never went anywhere. He was a writer who I could conceivably call his Sandman run one of the best comic book stories of all time, because it was amazing. He used different styles and storylines and characters and all kinds of stuff to make this really interesting and unique story. And he had a specific end in mind, so it only lasted like 70 some issues, but he had a specific goal that he wanted to do. And that's a series that I would recommend everybody to read also. It's a little heavy, so I don't know if you're, I wouldn't give it really to younger people because they wouldn't understand it. And even there's still some of the philosophical and stuff like psychological and weird, the kind of bizarre stuff I still don't quite understand. But he's also a world-renowned novelist. I've read a number of his books, including American Gods, which is what's doing really well in Stars right now, and the sequel, the one about the Spider God, which is really a good one also. And I've read a bunch of his short stories. And I read Neverwhere, which is really good, and Good Omens, which he wrote with another sci-fi writer, is really good also. So I've always been a fan of his stuff, and I've read a lot of his work. I bought Norse Mythology, which is his newest book. I haven't read it yet. And then he became a comic book writer. I mean, he did Sandman, and then he did like some Batman stories, and he's done some other stuff as well. And so he's been in and out around superhero and comics, stuff like that. But first and foremost, he is a novelist, and American Gods is so huge right now on Stars. They've done a really good job with the miniseries, calling it akin to Game of Thrones, if you will. So his popularity is huge right now. Anyway, someone made a comment on Twitter. And they added him, not expecting him to respond to it, because you do that. You follow celebrities who are verified, just because you like them. You're stargazing and you want to see what they have, if they have anything interesting to say. And then you hope if I respond to him, maybe he'll respond to me. It'd be so great if he did. And there have been a few times where I've had some celebrities respond to me, which is always a great feeling. But in this case, I think the guy didn't really intend for Neil Gaiman to respond to him. It was sort of a statement he was saying, talking about how much he liked Neil Gaiman's voice and how much he liked his manners and mannerisms, stuff like that, being British and stuff like that. The guy said, I would pay a lot of money for Neil Gaiman to read the Cheesecake Factory menu on stage. As a joke. I mean, it's like a tweet. It's a joke tweet. that he added Neil Gaiman, because he knew, I knew in the back of his head, like, there's no way he's going to respond to this. It's just a funny joke I wanted to say, and I wanted, maybe he might see it and like, that is kind of funny, and then move on or delete it or whatever. The guy, Neil Gaiman, responded to the guy. He said, I'll do it if you can raise this much money, and we'll give it all to charity. So the guy was blown away by that. So he's been trying to raise money to get Neil Gaiman to read the Cheesecake Factory menu on stage. And the money he would gather to have him do that would go to a charity that Neil Gaiman would pick. I think that's funny. I think that's really interesting. It's really unique. Yeah, I know it sounds kind of cheap. It's like, why don't you just give the money to the charity? He probably will anyway. If the guy doesn't deliver, Neil Gaiman's type of guy is like, okay, I gave you a deadline. You didn't get as much money as I thought you would, but you know what? I'll do it and I'll take it because he seems like the type of guy who would do that. But right now he wanted to set a goal. It's like, I need this much money collected. If you can collect that money for me, I'll do it in an instant, in a second. And if the time passes and he doesn't have enough, he'll take a look at it. And if it's close enough, he'll be like, okay, you know what? I'll do it. Or he might just say, you know what, I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to give the money to my charity, because he probably gives money to charity all the time. But I just thought it was a neat thing that someone said, I'd pay money to see him read the menu of the Cheesecake Factory of all places. And then if it actually happens, just to film him going, appetizer, crab pretzel, $5.99, soft pretzel covered in yummy, delicious crab dip, jalapeno popper, $4.99 for 12. Take a hot jalapeno, fry it, and use it with a side of salsa. Drinks: Coke, Sprite, A&W, Hires, stuff like that. For dinner, chicken Chesapeake, a delectable chicken breast covered in crab dip with a side of French fries and coleslaw. I mean, it'd just be great to see him, this very prim and proper British author who writes these hugely philosophical and mind-bending stories, reading a Cheesecake Factory menu. New York style cheesecake, creamy cheesecake covered in your choice of strawberry swizzle. It's funny as hell. I hope it works out. I thought that was a good story. Speaking of food, let's do food, shall we? I think we'll see where we are with Twin Peaks. I might just do it real quick. I might do another show for that. We'll do food, we'll do death, we'll do holidays, and then we'll see where we are. Maybe throw a guilty pleasure in there, because I've only got about half an hour left before I'm going to shut this down. So I find that if I go over 2 hours, my views go down because no one wants to sit for 2 hours and listen to my chit chat, even though it might be interesting, cool stuff. Granted, if this is a podcast, it might be different, but that's besides the point. Food. I've always been, for those who've watched my show, you guys know that I've always, whenever they introduce something new, I always want to try it just to get my own take on it and see if I like it or don't like it, and just say, hey, I tried this thing that's a limited time event or whatever, or something new that they're trying to get out to the world. So as I've mentioned, good examples I've done for is the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups with the Reese's Pieces inside, which, by the way, is phenomenal. And it's getting harder and harder to find them now. So I don't know if they're just getting rid of them or whatever, but you can still find them at like a Walmart or a Target, or your local gas station, convenience store usually would have it as well. And different types of sodas. Like I also talked about the Mountain Dew lemonade, which is actually really good too, which has got like prickly pear juice in it too, which is actually really fascinating. And then there's like a boysenberry flavored Mountain Dew soda, which is actually really, really good too. So I try these different things. And I've also talked about how Pop-Tarts have all these weird things, and Oreo do all these crazy weird flavors nowadays. And it's pretty interesting. The amount of stuff they have, and potato chips is a good example. So this week alone, over the last 2 weeks, I should say, there's been a lot of new stuff that's been popping out, I guess in time for summer, to get people excited about it and to try everything. So I've been able to find a bunch of things. I'm going to talk about them first, and then there are a couple that are coming that are not out yet that still might be kind of fascinating to think about. So the first ones I want to discuss that I tried is the Pepsi Fire. Now, for those who don't know, Pepsi is releasing a cinnamon flavored soda akin to a Fireball, which seems to be the big drink nowadays for millennials and 21-year-olds now. You get that cinnamon Fireball taste. They've got like cinnamon liqueur everywhere, and these Fireball is an actual whiskey or whatever you can use that has this Fireball cinnamon flavor to it. So they figured it's a big deal right now. Why don't we add that flavor to one of our sodas and see if it sells well? So okay, that sounds interesting. Cinnamon soda. I've liked some of the stuff they've done before. I like Crystal Pepsi. They did a Pepsi which was like a holiday Pepsi, I think, or was it Coke that did that? I think it was Pepsi that did the holiday Pepsi. Yeah, because Coke doesn't really do a lot of different things. It was like holiday Pepsi came out around Christmas time a few years ago. Had like a nutmeggy type thing. That one was okay. I could drink it, but I might not go out of my. I'd buy a 12-pack. I'd drink the 12-pack, but I might not go out of my way to buy another one. Or if I was at a store and I was like, man, I'm really thirsty for something, I might not have bought it. But it was passable. They also did one that I absolutely wish they'd bring back would be the Pepsi Lemon, which they released a couple of, not last year, but 4 or 5 years ago during football season, and I devoured Pepsi Lemon. It was so good. Oh my God, I wish they'd bring that one back. That's one I want them to bring back. So I think, okay, let's see what Pepsi Fire is like. So it took me a while to find it. It's supposed to come out on the 22nd of May, which was, I guess, Monday. And it took me a while to find it. I couldn't find it at Royal Farm Store, which is our local gas station store around here. And I really didn't get a chance to go to a Target or a Walmart or whatever. And I'd heard, okay, it's at 7-Eleven at least. So I knew there's a couple 7-Elevens. I don't tend to frequent 7-Eleven, but because there's not one really that close to me here. There's one close to me at work, but I just never had the time to stop by at work and get it. So I was like, okay. The other day, I think it was Thursday. Yeah, it was Thursday because I was coming back from my daughter's dress rehearsal. She was coming back from her trip to St. Mary's City, her school trip to St. Mary's City, and it wasn't supposed to be until 5:30. So I got up there about 5 o'clock. So I got some time. I don't want to waste any time. So I went and I went to Wawa, which is a local convenience store here. I don't know how. I think it goes up into Pennsylvania a little bit, but it's sort of an Eastern Coast type of thing. And they had Pepsi Fire. I was like, okay, I finally get a chance to try it. So I bought Pepsi Fire, and I drank it, and I hated it. I was not a big fan of it. So I didn't quite drink it all. And then when my kids came in, I let them have a sip of each, and they liked it. Maybe it's just the taste, and maybe they were excited because they don't really get to drink soda that much. But it's a bad taste going in your mouth. And then the aftertaste is you get the heat. You get the heat from cinnamon, but it doesn't taste like cinnamon. Maybe a slight resemblance to cinnamon, but doesn't have that cinnamon quality you're used to, So to me, it's a fail. So thumbs down with Pepsi Fire. As again, try it for yourself because this is just my opinion. I don't like it. I'm not going to buy it again. So I don't like Pepsi Fire. One thing I was a little disappointed in, but it's still passable, was caramel M&Ms. I had been looking for these also, and I saw one at a grocery store, but I didn't have enough money to buy them, and I was in a hurry, so I didn't actually buy them, so I didn't grab one. So luckily, someone I work with at work, she had some, and I saw them, I was like, ooh, I was like, yeah, why don't you have some? She gave me a handful of them. They're good. I mean, I like caramel, and I like M&Ms, but it's a very chewy caramel. I thought maybe it would be more of a gooier, but this was more like a bubblegum consistency type of thing. So you put it out, it's like I guess like a caramel that you can buy at the store, something like that. So you put it in, you crack the M&M shell, and it's like, okay, and it sort of lingers around your mouth like it does, like caramel does, and you swallow it, you chew it up, and it gets all sticky on your teeth, and it hurts your teeth a little bit because it's so sweet, and you eat it's very sweet. Don't get me wrong, it's still good. It's caramel M&Ms. Will I buy them again? Yeah, I'll buy them again. They're pretty good, but as I said, it's very, very chewy. They're very, very chewy M&Ms. I mean, you still have the hard shell on top of it, but the caramel is a very chewy caramel. So, pretty good, you know, and I would get that again. Firework Oreos. Oreos are absolutely insane with the amount of Oreo flavors you get out there. I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago. They released 3 different ones, and I finally was able to try the Fireworks one, and that one is good. It's so good. The Fireworks one has the pop candies, you know, the ones that when you Pop Rocks, they have like Pop Rock candies in the vanilla or the white cream of the Oreo. So you bite into it, and it just tastes like a regular Oreo for a while. You know, you're chewing it up, and then as you're chewing it, you start filling it up, and it's really good. Actually, it tastes really good. It's not overwhelming. The flavor is still like eating an Oreo. It just has little pops that come in your mouth every once in a while, and it's perfect for Memorial Day because it's very flag oriented, fireworks, stuff like that. More for 4th of July. It'd be a great dessert for a 4th of July barbecue. And I don't know how long it's going to be out there. Hopefully it'll be all summer, but if you can find Fireworks Oreos, go get Fireworks Oreos. I think you'll really like them. And as I said, it's not, the flavor is just tastes like an Oreo, and you just get this little pop, or, you know, if you don't like Pop Rocks, you're not going to like this. But I like Pop Rocks, and this is a really good pop flavor. So I got 2 bags of it upstairs. My kids like it also. So yay for Firework Oreos. That's a thumbs up. Oh yeah, caramel M&Ms is sort of a more leaning towards thumbs up, but it's sort of in the middle type of thing. I'd probably do like this, not a straight up thumbs up, but sort of like that. Another patriotic, because patriotism is a big thing this year. We had Fireworks Oreos, and we have red, white, and blue Mountain Dew. That's good shit. The red, white, and blue Mountain Dew is fan-freaking-tastic. It's a mix of Code Red, the white Mountain Dew they released a while back, and the blue Mountain Dew they released back. So they have blue, they have a red, and they have a white Mountain Dew, and it's the 3 of them mixed together into one. I actually haven't seen the flavor and seen what it looks like. So I haven't put it in the glass. I just drink it from the can, and it is so good. Oh man, if you like Mountain Dew and you like those flavors combined together, it doesn't taste terrible. The flavors combine very well. It's delicious. It's refreshing. It's Mountain Dew. It's fan-freaking-tastic. That's a thumbs up, way up. So I've got 2 really good patriotics for 4th of July. I got that and the Fireworks Oreos. Another good summer thumbs up for me, and this is the last one I think I'm going to talk about, and then we'll talk about the coming stuff, is Lay's has been going crazy where they've done these competitions where you can send them your designs for a new potato chip, and they create them, and then they pick the top 3, and then they make them, and then they ship them out to grocery stores, and then you buy them, and then you vote on which one you like the best, and then which one you like the best is the winner of the competition and becomes a member of the Lay's staple of potato chips, and you know, wins money and all this stuff. And the funny thing about that is you have these top 3, and you have one that's a winner, but you can still find the other ones out there even months and years after they were done. So occasionally you might still pause like, oh wow, this came out, like the biscuits and gravy one. Oh, that came out a few years ago. I don't think it won, but hey, it came out a few years ago. Hey, why did I buy it? It was pretty good. You know, they still release some of those out there, so you can still get them. It depends on what grocery store you go to. So, but they haven't been doing that lately. They've been creating their own and then saying, you know, we made our own, you vote which one you like. Or they did one where they did similar ones. They re-released ones that they'd gotten rid of years ago that are similar to ones you have now, and you vote which one you want to keep, and that one goes out and this one comes up, whatever. But this one's something they create on their own. And on the onset, it sounds like it might not be very delectable, but oh, it is. And I'm going to buy some more if I can find it. BLT Lay's. Now, for those who don't know what BLT is, it's a bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwich, which is a staple sandwich for summertime, particularly because it's lettuce, tomato, and bacon on toast and mayonnaise. You can add cheese to it if you want, but if you add turkey or ham and cheese to it, it becomes a club sandwich. This is just bacon, lettuce, and tomato, and that's it, and mayonnaise and toast. That is a BLT. And it's so good, particularly during the summer. It is so good because during the summer, tomatoes are at their ripest, they're freshest. And, lettuce is always lettuce and bacon is always bacon. But this is the tomatoes that really sells it. So you want to get the good tomatoes during the summer because that's when tomatoes are at their best and their ripest is during the summer. So you go to the grocery store, you pick up a ton of tomatoes, you get some lettuce, you get some bacon, and a good, easy summer, cool summer dinner would be a BLT because look, you serve the lettuce cold, you serve the tomato cold, you just cook the bacon. That's the only thing you do. And then even then it cools off quickly. It's just more for the crunch factor and the pork taste of the bacon. And I put mayonnaise on it and put it on toast particularly also is fantastic. So it was a staple for my family when I was growing up. BLTs was like, we had it every week for dinner, and occasionally we do it at lunch sometimes too. It's a real easy to make. Well, we haven't done so much with my family now here, but that's something we'll work on because it is really, really good. So we get the BLT flavored potatoes. Like, yeah, I may as well try it. Really good. And a thumbs up also. So if you can find your BLT, I mean, it's not overwhelming flavor. There's not one flavor there's not an overwhelming bacon flavor or overwhelming tomato, and lettuce has no flavor anyway. It's a perfect mix of what you expect in a BLT. So BLT Lay's is a good pickup for that. What's coming is, I'm not sure how big of a fan I am of these. Spicy Skittles and Spicy Starburst. They're going to, because I guess spice is a big thing now. People like hot sauce and stuff like that. So they're going to mix like fruit flavors with pepper and stuff like that flavors. So you get sort of the fruit flavor, but then you get a little bit of heat involved with it. And I'm not sure I'm that excited about it. I love Skittles, but spicy Skittles, it doesn't seem like it's going to be such a great idea for me anyway. And then I just heard they're going to be doing Starburst as well, which is the chewy fruit chew stuff as well. So it's going to be similar like that. I mean, it makes sense. People like spicy. They like to get into spicy stuff. So why not do that? So they do that. So that's coming this fall, I think. So I don't know how big of a deal. I'm probably not going to try it. I might look at the bag and see what the flavors are. But from what I heard, it's like a mix of like a specific fruit and like mango pepper or something like that. Mango salsa or something like that. So it's going to be more of a, not quite like Skittles, which is more of a fruit candy flavor. It's going to be more like I want to say dinner candy, but that's basically what I can think of is what it is. And then have the Starburst as well. I don't know. So we'll see about that. And then Twinkie ice cream and Tasty Cake ice cream are coming. Not Tasty Cake, the chocolate cupcake that they have also. Twinkies and chocolate cupcakes are different than the other Hostess stuff. So they're going to have Twinkie ice cream, which could be interesting. And they're going to have like the cupcakes, the Hostess cupcake ice cream as well, which could be, again, interesting. You get a marshmallow chocolatey flavor to it, maybe a double chocolate because the cupcake has like a hard chocolate shell, white swizzle on it, and then you get the marshmallow or the cream in the middle and the chocolate, like devil food for that. And then Twinkie's a Twinkie, the sponge cake with the cream in the middle. So it's not really marshmallow, but the cream in it. So you get a little mix of that. So that might be interesting. I'll keep an eye out for that. Yangling, which is a local ice cream brewer up here. I know there's a beer called Ice Cream, and it's done by kind of the same family, but it's not beer flavored ice cream. It's a different style of ice cream. Their ice cream is really, really good, and our local Weiss stores has them, but they still don't have the butter beer ice cream, which is one that they, I guess, have only revealed up in Pennsylvania right now and hasn't made their way down here yet. So I'm still looking for that. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's see, how much time do I have left? 7 minutes. I'll have to put guilty pleasures aside for another show. So I'll do guilty pleasures here, guilty pleasure show. Who knows? Maybe I will do another show tomorrow also and talk about these. Real quick, let me talk about Twin Peaks, because I mentioned I was going to talk a little bit about it. There's another one that I might do my own show about it. The first 4 episodes of the new series were released through streaming. I bought the Amazon streaming, was able to watch the first 2 down here on this computer. Didn't want to watch the 3rd and 4th one, even though I wanted to, but I knew that they weren't going to be releasing any today. Showtime will be showing episodes 3 and 4 today, because the people who just got Showtime for Twin Peaks were not able to see 3 and 4. You could only see it if you had the streaming via Showtime or Amazon. So a lot of people did watch all 4 of them. I decided, you know what, I'm going to wait. I'll watch 3 and 4 tonight, probably, knowing full well they're not going to upload any new ones this week. And then the new one, and then they'll do 1 per week starting next week until Labor Day, when they'll do 2 for the 2-hour season finale. So it's definitely different. If you were a fan of the show, it's been very divisive online, because this show came out before online was really a big deal. So no one could really sit down and discuss it. Now it's like all over the place. There are fans of Twin Peaks who absolutely hate the first 2 to 4 episodes. There are fans who been fans of the show who are in love with the show. I'm somewhere on the edge. It's one of those where I don't hate it, but it's one of those that they've had some really interesting imagery, but they're really doing a lot of crazy different things. And the one thing that's keeping me settled is that this is 18 hours. The show this is an 18-hour movie. I've only seen 2. After tonight, 4 hours of it. That's not even a fourth of it yet. So, or it's close to a fourth, but not quite a fourth of this show. So we still got tons of episodes to go. And despite when you may think about David Lynch and his crazy and stuff like that, his general storyline eventually does come back around and reach itself, and it does answer some questions. And I think a lot of stuff you're seeing now is going to be answered, but it's fun to see some of the old members of the show back on again, particularly Kyle MacLachlan, whose show this is. He's playing 3 different roles, and they're all different, and they're all spectacular. You get to see some of the other Twin Peaks fans as well. You get to get caught up with them, but then you get introduced to a lot of new characters. You get introduced to a lot of new locales. Matthew Lillard, who was in the Scream movie, the original Scream movie, and was Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo movies, he's done a spectacular job in his role. And there's been lots of, since it's on cable, you can get away with more language, gore, and sex. There's been some nudity, vicious, gory murders, and stuff like that. So I'm still thinking about it a little bit. But I'm entertained by it, and there's still a lot of stuff going on that I don't quite understand. But and so far it's taking its sweet time to get moving. I know people want to see Cooper interact with the TV Twin Peaks, and it's taken them a while to get there. And even after I've read some spoilers for the next 2 episodes, it still hasn't happened yet, but things seem to be progressing in that way. So we'll see. I will do a further Twin Peaks review down the line. I may even get some people to help me about that as well. So I'm squaring all the ones I'm going to talk about later. Real quick, in memoriam, Roger Moore passed away recently. He was one of the James Bonds, and been a lot of different things. So a lot of people really liked him. Rich Buckler, comic book artist who drew one of the, I was talking about great comic book stories. The Death of Jean DeWolf is a fantastic one written by Peter David. Rich Buckler did the artwork for that. He's been around forever. He created, Deathlock, and he's done a lot of other work before. So he passed away. Chris Cornell, he passed away about 3 weeks ago, whatever. He was the lead singer of Soundgarden. Had a big part in Singles, which is another movie I may be discussing on my top 10 list with Jerry Fletcher sometime in June, because that came out in '92. And sorry, no, I got distracted by my kids upstairs. And then recently, Greg Allman passed away of the Allman Brothers. So, death isn't hitting as hard as it did in 2016, but it's still prevalent and still around. So rest in peace, all them. And my son's friend just came, so we're gonna be dealing with that, and we're just wrapping up here now too. Real quick, I was going to talk about this. I got a few minutes. I've been reading biographies like crazy. I read Felicia Day's biography last year. I read John Cryer's last year also. I've been reading Carrie Fisher's new book. I read one from Ed Norris, who was a Baltimore City Police Commissioner who was considered to be one of the up-and-comers in the area, was breaking down crime, but he got politically involved. Politics got involved with him, and he ended up getting screwed and going to jail for pretty much like a misdemeanor for 6 months. And I'm almost finished Anna Kendrick's book also, Scrappy Little Nobody, which is a really cute good book. And for whatever reason, I like reading biographies now more than fictional books. For whatever reason, it's fun to see characters you know about and hear behind the scenes stuff about their lives and how they got into things and their behind the scenes movie stuff like that. The only things I have problem with is the Carrie Fisher one is quite not as good as I thought it was. It's the Princess Diaries is the one I'm reading now. And I've read her other ones and they're fantastic. This one basically all it seems to be is a book about her secret affair with Harrison Ford. And she spends the majority of the book releasing her thoughts about that when she wrote them when she was a young 20-year-old or whatever it was when she did Star Wars. And it was a slog to get through. It was the same stuff over and over again. I was like, ugh, can we move on? And maybe I wanted to learn more stuff about behind the scenes stuff of Star Wars. Maybe that was the problem. But as I said, that's just the way Carrie wanted to write it. It was the last book she ever wrote. And it's okay. It's not great. It's okay. Her previous ones, Wishful Drinking, and I forget what the other one is, her biographies are better than Princess Diaries is. The Ed Norris one was a good read also. I really didn't remember. It was a current history. It happened around 2004. So I didn't quite remember the story. Maybe I wasn't paying much attention to it at the time. It didn't affect me because I don't live in Baltimore City as much. And then I just knew about him because he's on the fan sports radio talk that I listen to. So that's interesting as well. And one more thing before I leave so the kids can come down here and take over. And the Anna Kendrick book's really a lot of fun. She's a funny writer. She's great on Twitter, and her book is just what you expect. The John Cryer one was fantastic. The Neil Patrick Harris Choose Your Own Adventure one was phenomenal. The Felicia Day one was fantastic. So I like biographies nowadays, and I still read my historical books, and I still have some fictional books I want to read, but it just hasn't drawn my attention as much as these are. So I just want to let you know about that. I didn't quite get everything I wanted to cover, but you know what? Unusual Monsters shown gardening. What? Oh, Universal Monsters shared universe galaxy. I need to go. I want to talk about Pop Culture Coffee real quick. That's the coffee shop that I talked about that I'm going to be opening up eventually. Sometime, maybe. It's in my dreams right now. I need to get the capital, but I've been reading Entrepreneur Magazine a little bit and getting some ideas. I want to get some more research involved with it. I'm thinking of doing a Kickstarter to get people involved to give money to get the thing down. But I think a coffee shop in the area would be fantastic, and the pop culture would be great as well. But that's something for another day as well. I think I'm done because I gotta get moving. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. There's only a couple days left of it left. Stay tuned for next week. I will be doing the reunion with Snark Alc Radio on Thursday, June 1st. I'll do my show with MJ Khan probably on Sunday, June 3rd, June 4th, talking about Wonder Woman, the movie, and some other stuff as well. Maybe the Zack Snyder story to discuss quickly. Don't forget Wonder Woman Day. It's going to be at your local comic book store on Saturday. Get 2 free Wonder Woman comics and just go in and just check out the comic books they have there. There are a lot of female-friendly books in there now, and comic stores are now more female-friendly than they've ever been before. My Comic Hall show, I'll do a show probably on Wednesday or Friday of next week, depending when I get the books. It's the beginning. It's Wednesday's the 31st, so it's going to be a 5th week series. There's not going to be a lot of books, but I'll probably do one then, maybe on Wednesday if I pick it up. So it's only a few books. Probably going to buy them. It's going to be only like $20 or something like that, so that'll be good. And try some of this stuff: the BLT, Lay's, Red, White, and Blue, Dew, Fireworks, Oreos, caramel M&Ms are all pretty good. Stay away from Pepsi Fire though, but try it if you're interested. You might like it. I didn't. I think on that note, I'm done. Thanks everybody. I need to do my holidays, but you know what? It's a holiday day. It's about Memorial Day. Let's end this on a moment of silence for all we've lost in foreign wars and on hand here, terrorist acts. And tomorrow, Memorial Day, just pause for a second and remember those who gave their life for your country and for your freedom. Thank you. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy yourself. I got 3 kids. I'm going to take laser tag eventually, maybe. We'll see how things go. Maybe not.